The concrete walls wept condensation, not from rain, from the screaming. In the bowels of a monastery that had forgotten God, a woman hung from silver chains. Her wrists bled where the blessed metal bit into flesh. Her veins, black as ink spill, crawled up her forearms like poisoned rivers seeking her heart. Father Augustine circled her slowly. His cassock whispered against stone floors that had drunk too much blood to ever be clean again. He carried a syringe filled with liquid that glowed faintly violet in the dim lamplight. The woman's name was Seraphina Vane, 25 years old by the calendar, ancient by the burden she carried, last surviving member of a bloodline that had hunted vampires for 6 centuries. "Tell me again," Augustine said, his voice soft as a confessional, "how many of your family survived the purge?" Seraphina's head hung forward. Dark hair matted with sweat obscured her face. When she spoke, her voice was gravel and defiance. "None." "Lies." Augustine pressed the needle against her neck. "The Vane bloodline is resilient. Someone always survives. Someone always runs. My mother burned. My father burned. My brother was 12 years old when they nailed him to the church doors. The needle punctured skin. Violet liquid merged with violet-streaked blood. Seraphina's body convulsed. The chains rattled like bones in a crypt. Augustine watched with the clinical detachment of a man convinced he served a higher purpose. He withdrew the syringe and made a notation in a leather-bound journal. "Subject Epsilon," he murmured. "Sixth extraction. Corruption saturation increasing. Viral synthesis at 73%. Seraphina's head snapped up. Her eyes, normally a soft brown, now glowed with flecks of violent purple. The corruption was not just in her veins anymore. It was becoming her. "You cannot win," she whispered. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. "He will stop you." Augustine paused. "He?" "The king you fear. The one you have been hunting for 3 centuries. Lucian Ashford." A smile crept across Augustine's weathered face. "Lord Ashford is a relic. When we release the weapon your blood has given us, his kind will dissolve from within. And you, dear child, will have cleansed the world." Seraphina's laugh was broken glass. "You think I am your weapon? You think you control the corruption. I know I do. Then you are already dead. You just have not stopped breathing yet." Augustine struck her across the face. The crack echoed through the chamber. But Seraphina smiled through split lips, and her teeth were stained red. In the corner of the room, a vial sat on a steel table. Inward, the synthesized virus glowed like a dying star. 2 years from this moment, that vial would become a timer counting down to extinction. 2 years from this moment, Seraphina would escape using Vane family techniques Augustine never knew existed. But the corruption would come with her. Dormant, waiting for the right catalyst to awaken, waiting for proximity to a vampire king. London, present day. The rumor spread through the underworld like plague through a medieval village, whispered in the drawing rooms of Mayfair, muttered in the blood bars beneath Camden, texted in encrypted messages that dissolved after reading. Lord Lucian Ashford was dying. It was a carefully constructed lie. Lucian had planted it himself with the precision of a chess master moving pawns. In 3 centuries of ruling the London night, he had learned that truth was a weapon, but lies were strategy. Tonight, in Blackwood Manor, the great performance would begin. The manor rose from the Thames fog like a tombstone commemorating an empire that refused to die. Built in 1724 by Lucian's own hands, the estate sprawled across 12 acres of grounds that had witnessed the rise and fall of kings. Gothic spires pierced the low clouds. Gargoyles watched the approach roads with stone eyes that had seen every betrayal worth remembering. Inside, the main hall glittered with false light and truer darkness. Lucian stood before a gathering of his inner circle. 23 vampires who had sworn loyalty through blood oaths that should have been unbreakable. He studied their faces with the detachment of a general inspecting soldiers before a battle where half would desert. He wore a black suit tailored in 1889 by a Savile Row craftsman who had understood that some men dressed to seduce and others dressed to intimidate. At 304 years old, Lucian carried his age in his eyes alone. Coal-black hair fell to his shoulders. His face was carved marble, beautiful in the way winter is beautiful, flawless, inhuman, and promising death to anyone who mistook aesthetics for mercy. "My loyal family," Lucian said. His voice carried through the hall with absolute authority. "I gather you tonight to share news that cannot be delayed." The assembled vampires leaned forward, predators scenting weakness. "The eternal slumber comes for me." Silence, then whispers like wind through a graveyard. The eternal slumber was legend among elder vampires. A deep restorative hibernation required once every decade when a vampire's accumulated power began consuming itself. For 3 days, the sleeper would be utterly helpless, comatose, vulnerable, dead in all ways except the final one. It was a time when knives came out of sheaths. 300 years I have walked among you," Lucian continued. His gaze swept the room, marking faces, who looked concerned, who looked hungry. "Tomorrow at sunset I will retire to my chamber. For 3 nights I will not wake. For 3 nights this house will stand unguarded by its master." He paused. "Let the implications sink like stones into still water. Corvus Blackwood will hold regency in my absence." Every head turned to the man standing at Lucian's right hand. Corvus was tall, blade-thin, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a queue. He had been Lucian's lieutenant for 150 years. Turned from a condemned revolutionary in 1874, saved from the gallows, remade in blood and loyalty. Or so the story went. Corvus bowed. "I am honored, my lord. The manor will be defended as if you stood watch yourself." Lucian smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "I have every confidence." The gathering dissolved into murmured conversations. Lucian watched them disperse like wolves calculating which among the pack had grown too old to defend his kill. Only when the hall emptied did Lucian allow himself a single, satisfied breath. The trap was set. Now to see which rats entered the maze. 3 weeks earlier, a woman had arrived at Blackwood Manor. Her name, she claimed, was Seraphina Moore. She carried references from an agency that specialized in domestic staff for the supernatural elite. Her letter of introduction claimed experience serving a minor vampire lord in Edinburgh who had recently met the sun under circumstances no one wished to investigate too closely. She was, by all appearances, unremarkable. Pale skin that never saw enough daylight. Dark hair pulled into a severe bun that made her face vanish into a crowd. Eyes downcast, voice soft. She moved through rooms like smoke, cleaning without sound, serving without presence. She was too perfect. Lucian had known this from the first moment she crossed his threshold. He stood now in the library, 3 floors above the main hall, watching through the window as the last of his inner circle departed into the night. Rain began to fall. It always rained in London. The city wept for sins too numerous to catalogue. Behind him, a presence approached. No footsteps, no breathing. But Lucian had survived 3 centuries by trusting the hair rising on his neck. "The fire needs tending, my lord." Seraphina's voice, quiet as a prayer. Lucian did not turn. "The fire is sufficient." "As you say, my lord." She moved to the hearth anyway. Lucian watched her reflection in the rain-streaked glass. She knelt before the flames with practiced grace, added a log, prodded embers with an iron poker that could easily be swung as a weapon. She did not swing it. "You have been in my employ for 3 weeks, Seraphina," Lucian said. "Yes, my lord." "You have asked no questions, made no mistakes, shown no fear." A pause. The firelight painted her face in shades of amber. "Should I fear you, my lord?" "Everyone fears me." "Perhaps I am not like everyone." Lucian finally turned. Seraphina remained kneeling, head bowed, but something in her posture suggested She could move faster than anyone anticipated. He crossed the library in 3 strides, stood above her, studied the curve of her neck where pulse should flutter with terror. It did not flutter. "Look at me," Lucian commanded. Serafina raised her eyes, brown, flecked with something that caught the firelight strangely. For half a breath, Lucian saw violet buried beneath the brown, like jewels hidden under mud. Then it vanished. "You smell wrong," Lucian said. "My lord? Humans smell of fear when they stand this close to death. You smell of rain, of ozone, of old parchment." Serafina's face betrayed nothing. "I do not understand, my lord." "You will," Lucian said. "Soon." He left her kneeling by the fire. But as he climbed the stairs to his chamber, Lucian permitted himself something rare: curiosity. He had last smelled that particular scent in 1666, during the Great Fire of London, when a hunter from the Vane bloodline had tried to kill him in the chaos. The Vane line had been extinct for over a century, wiped out by the Silver Cross 5 years ago in a purge that left no survivors. Or so the reports claimed. Either his nose deceived him, or the game was more complex than anticipated. Lucian hoped for complexity. He was so very tired of simple betrayals. Sunset arrived on schedule. Lucian lay in the center of his chamber, arms folded across his chest like a knight carved into a tomb lid. The bed was a monstrosity of ebony wood, 4 posts thick as a man's torso, carved with gargoyles that seemed to shift position when no one watched directly. Heavy curtains blocked the windows. A single candle burned on the nightstand, its flame reflected in the polished silver of a Victorian mirror. To any observer, Lucian appeared utterly lifeless. This was the stillness, an ancient technique passed down from the first vampires, the ones who had learned to survive the Inquisition by slowing their hearts to 1 beat per hour. Body temperature dropped to match the ambient air. Skin took on the waxy texture of corpse flesh. Eyes glazed, breathing ceased entirely. But the mind remained sharp as drawn steel. Lucian floated in a darkness, lit only by thought. He felt everything. The texture of silk sheets against his back, the weight of his own hair fanned across the pillow, the slow circulation of blood through vessels that should have been long empty. And he waited. The grandfather clock in the hallway marked time with patient malice. 9 p.m., 10, 11. Midnight passed. At 1 a.m., Lucian heard the first test. Footsteps in the corridor. Heavy. Male. Corvus. The lieutenant entered the chamber without knocking. Stood at the foot of the bed for 3 full minutes. Lucian felt the weight of his gaze, the calculation happening behind Corvus's eyes. Would it be now? Would the first betrayal come from the brother he had saved? But Corvus only adjusted the curtain, ensuring no stray moonlight would penetrate, and departed. First test? Passed. 2 a.m. The house settled into silence. 3 a.m. arrived like an executioner's appointment. The witching hour. Lucian's supernatural senses, heightened by the stillness, registered the change in air pressure before he heard the sound. Someone was bypassing the wards on his door, not breaking through. Bypassing. As if they knew the exact frequency to counter the protective spells Lucian had woven into the wood. The lock clicked, not picked, unlocked from within, as if the door recognized an authorized presence. Impossible. The door whispered open. Footsteps entered. But these were not Corvus's heavy tread. These were silent, deliberate, the steps of someone trained to move through guarded spaces without triggering alarms. Lucian expanded his hearing until his entire world became sound. A heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. Too slow for a human under stress. 60 beats per minute. Calm, controlled, terrifyingly composed. The intruder approached the bed. Lucian prepared every muscle for the strike. One wrong move and he would snap her neck, yes, her, he could smell it now, before she drew breath to scream. He felt the shift in air as someone leaned over him. This was the moment. The knife would flash. The stake would plunge. He readied himself to move faster than thought. But Serafina did not strike. Instead, he felt the cool, smooth glass of a bottle touch his lips. Lucian's tactical mind raced through possibilities. Poison? Laughable. He was already dead by most definitions. Holy water? That would have burned the glass itself. A single drop of liquid fell onto his tongue. Blood. Not human blood. This was thicker, richer, ancient. This was vampire blood. Elder vampire blood. This was his own blood. Harvested, aged, purified. What game was this? Serafina pulled the vial away. The mattress dipped under her weight as she sat on the edge of his bed. No servant would dare. No assassin would linger. When she spoke, her voice was completely different from the submissive whisper she used in daylight. "I know you are in there, Lucian." His heart, paused mid-stillness, gave a phantom lurch. "You always were a terrible actor." Her voice was low, husky, filled with an authority that made his centuries-old instincts scream warnings. "You held your breath when you were pretending to sleep. You did it in Paris, too, in 1889. Lucian's mind crashed against the impossible. 1889. He had been in Paris during the exposition. Yes, but he had been alone. He had eliminated a rogue coven and departed before the authorities found the bodies. He did not know any Serafina. She leaned closer. Her body heat radiated against his cold skin. "They sent me to kill you, you know," she said. Her fingers brushed a lock of hair from his forehead. The touch was intimate, familiar, the touch of someone who had done this 100 times before. "The High Council. They think you have gone rogue. They think you are hoarding forbidden artifacts." She laughed quietly. "If only they knew you lost the Starfire gem in a poker game to a werewolf in 1924. Lucian nearly broke character. That game was a humiliation he had buried in the deepest vaults of memory. No one knew. The Scottish Alpha had sworn blood oath never to speak of it. How did this woman know? "I am not going to kill you, Lucian," Serafina whispered. Her hand moved to rest over his still heart. "But I cannot let you wake up yet, not until I find it." She reached into her apron. Lucian prepared to strike. Stillness be damned. If she pulled a weapon, he would end this. She withdrew a needle and thread. Confusion crashed through his certainty. What possible use? "Stay still, my king," Serafina breathed against his ear. "This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you." Then she did something that shattered every calculation Lucian had made. She jammed the needle into her own finger. A bead of blood welled up, dark, crimson, but threaded through with violet veins that pulsed like living lightning. She pressed her bleeding finger against the scar on Lucian's neck, the bite mark he had received from the original vampire, the wound that had burned for 217 years without healing. The agony that had become such a constant companion, he had learned to ignore it, the way humans ignore their own breathing. The moment her blood touched the scar, the pain vanished. Not dulled, not reduced, erased. For the first time in over 2 centuries, Lucian felt nothing where the wound had been, only cool, blessed numbness. His mind screamed in confusion. Only one bloodline could heal a mark of the original, and that bloodline had been extinguished. Lucian had seen the reports. The Vane family massacre 5 years ago, orchestrated by the Silver Cross. Total eradication. Serafina Moore was not a maid. She was not a simple assassin. She was a ghost. The relief was so profound that Lucian nearly groaned aloud. The gnawing fire in his neck, a companion through wars, plagues, and the fall of empires, was replaced by a sensation he had forgotten existed. Peace. Physical peace. Serafina kept her finger pressed to his skin, humming softly. Lucian recognized the melody. An old nursery rhyme from the Carpathian Mountains, something mothers sang to warn children about the woods after dark. "Sleep, little wolf, the moon is high. The hunter waits where shadows lie." She pulled her hand away and wiped the blood from his neck with a silk handkerchief produced from her sleeve. Then she began to unbutton his shirt. Every combat instinct Lucian possessed screamed at him to move, to strike, to end this before it escalated into territory he could not predict. But the healing held him frozen, not with magic, with pure, desperate curiosity. If she could do this, what else was possible? She exposed his chest, pale skin stretched over muscle that had not needed exercise to maintain for 3 centuries. In the candlelight, his body looked carved from marble. "You have grown thin," Serafina murmured, tracing a rib with her thumb. "You are starving yourself, Lucian. The synthetic blood is not enough. You need the real thing. But you are too stubborn. Too moral." She spat the word moral like it was obscenity. From her pocket she withdrew a device. Lucian's inner eye widened. The Chronos key. He had not seen that artifact since the British Museum heist of 1892. The key was rumored to unlock temporal wards, to manipulate time itself in small, dangerous increments. Why did a maid have it? Why did a hunter have it? Serafina placed the device on his chest, directly over his heart. She began to turn the gears. Click, click, whir. "You are going to hate me when you wake up," she whispered to his closed eyes. "You are going to hunt me down. You are going to tear London apart looking for me." The device began to hum. Lucian felt vibrations sink into his chest, resonating with his dormant core. It was not hurting him. It was charging him. Power flooded through his limbs like ice water through desert-dry riverbeds. He felt vitality he had not experienced since his turning. His muscles swelled. His senses sharpened. Every nerve ending in his body ignited with renewed strength. "But I need you strong," Serafina continued. "The war is coming, Lucian, and you are so remarkably unprepared." "Who are you?" Lucian screamed in the silence of his mind. Serafina stood, smoothed her apron. Her demeanor shifted instantly from sorceress back to servant. She looked toward the door, her head cocked like a wolf, hearing a distant call. "He is coming," she whispered. Lucian strained his hearing past the blood rushing through his newly vitalized veins. Footsteps, heavy, confident, not attempting stealth. The door handle turned. Serafina did not hide, did not run. She stood beside the bed, head bowed, hands clasped in the posture of a dutiful maid who had simply been checking on her master. The door opened. Corvus Blackwood filled the frame. He was not alone. In his hands, he carried a heavy silver-plated crossbow. Lucian watched through eyelashes slit so narrow they were invisible. Every muscle in his body was coiled. The Chronos key had supercharged him. He could move now, faster than he had moved in a century. But he needed to know. He needed to see how far the betrayal went. "Is it done?" Corvus asked. His voice was stripped of all the deference he usually showed his king. This was the voice of a man who believed himself moments away from a crown. Serafina turned to face him. "He is sedated," she said. The mixture was potent. Lucian felt a cold pit open in his stomach. Corvus stepped into the room, raised the crossbow, aimed it directly at Lucian's heart. "Good," Corvus said. "The Silver Cross sends their regards. I told you, girl. You drug him, I kill him. That was the deal. You get your freedom. I get the crown." Serafina looked at Corvus, then back at Lucian. Her eyes met his through the slit of his eyelashes, and she smiled. "Deals change, Corvus," she said softly. "What?" Serafina's voice dropped an octave. The air in the room suddenly grew heavy, static. "I said," she repeated, each word carved from ice. "Deals change." She raised her hand. She did not hold a weapon. She simply snapped her fingers. The Chronos key on Lucian's chest flared with blinding blue light. The pulse of kinetic energy that erupted from the device was not an explosion. It was a focused shockwave. A tidal force compressed into a sphere the size of a fist, then released in a single direction. Corvus did not have time to pull the trigger. The blast hit him like a cannonball fired from point-blank range. His body lifted off the ground, flew backward across the length of the chamber, and smashed into the oak wardrobe with a sound like a tree splitting in a storm. Wood splintered. The wardrobe collapsed inward. Corvus's body disappeared into the wreckage in a cascade of shattered timber and fabric. The crossbow skittered across the floor, coming to rest against the far wall. Lucian's eyes snapped open. They glowed deep, predatory red. The game was over. He sat up in a single fluid motion. The sheet pooled at his waist. His chest, still exposed, radiated power that made the candle flame on the nightstand flicker and bend away. Serafina looked down at him. Serafina, in that split second, everything Lucian thought he knew inverted. Her eyes were not brown. Under the stress of magic, the glamour shattered like glass. Her eyes were violet, pure royal violet, the mark of the House of Vane, the bloodline that had hunted his kind for 600 years. The family, he had been told, was completely eliminated in 1924. "Wake up, Sleeping Beauty," Serafina said. She kicked the crossbow toward him. It slid across the floor and stopped at the edge of the bed. "We have work to do." Lucian grabbed the crossbow in a blur of motion too fast for human eyes to track. He leveled it at the groaning pile of debris that had been Corvus, but his gaze never left Serafina. "You are vain," he said. His voice was rough from disuse and shock. "I was told the last of your kind died 5 years ago." Serafina smiled. It was the most terrifying expression Lucian had seen in 3 centuries. She reached up and pulled a silver pin from her hair. The severe bun collapsed. Dark locks cascaded down her back, transforming her from invisible servant into something wild and dangerous. "You were told incorrectly," she said. "I survived, barely, and I have been planning this moment for 2 years." Corvus did not stay down. He should have. A human would have died from the impact. A young vampire would have needed hours to heal broken ribs and shattered spine. But Corvus was no longer just a vampire. The betrayal had bought him power. Dark gifts from benefactors who wanted Lucian dead and were willing to invest in the assassin. Corvus groaned, bones knitted with wet sounds. He pushed aside broken wood and stood. Blood ran from his mouth. His left arm hung at an unnatural angle, but even as Lucian watched, the shoulder joint rotated, snapped, realigned. "You foolish girl," Corvus spat. Blood sprayed across the Persian rug. "You think waking him will save you? The manor is surrounded. The Silver Cross has 50 men in the garden, 50 more in the cellar." Lucian stepped off the bed. He felt different. The Chronos key had not just awakened him, it had supercharged him. The world moved in slow motion. He saw individual dust motes dancing in the candlelight. He heard the safety catch click off a rifle 3 rooms away. He felt the pulse of every living heart in Blackwood Manor like drums beating a war march. 50 men, Lucian said. His voice filled the chamber with absolute certainty. "Good. I was feeling peckish." He did not run. He moved. To a human eye, it would have appeared as teleportation. 1 second, Lucian stood beside the bed. The next, he had crossed the room and wrapped his hand around Corvus's throat. He lifted his former brother a foot off the ground. "Who turned you?" Lucian demanded. His grip tightened. "Who offered you my throne?" Corvus choked. His face turned purple. But through the strangling, he managed a twisted grin. "The one who is coming," he rasped. "For everything." Suddenly, the windows imploded. Glass shattered inward in a glittering storm. Canisters hissed across the floor, spewing white mist that boiled and spread like malevolent fog. Not tear gas, holy mist. A vaporized concentrate of holy water and garlic oil, weaponized by the Silver Cross specifically for vampire extermination. To Lucian, it was like breathing acid. He roared, dropped Corvus, stumbled backward as his skin began to blister. The mist seared his eyes. Pain lanced through his lungs. "Move!" Serafina shouted. She did not cough. The holy mist did not touch her. She grabbed Lucian's arm, not with the gentleness of a maid, with the iron grip of a soldier hauling wounded from a battlefield. She produced a heavy woolen cloak from the wardrobe, one of Lucian's own, and threw it over his head. "The ventilation ducts," she commanded, pulling him toward the ornate fireplace. We go up, not out. I do not crawl through ducts like vermin, Lucian hissed, though he let her guide him. His vision was white fire. You do if you want to keep your skin, she retorted. She kicked the back of the fireplace. A hidden panel, one Lucian had installed 80 years ago and forgotten, popped open. How do you know my escape routes? Lucian demanded, shoving her inside first. I studied the blueprints of this house for 6 months before I applied for the job, Serafina said, climbing iron rungs inside the chimney shaft. I know this manor better than you do, Your Majesty. Now climb. They scrambled up the shaft as gunfire erupted in the bedroom below. Bullets pinged against brickwork. Corvus was screaming orders. They emerged onto the rooftop of Blackwood Manor. Cold London rain hit Lucian's face, instantly soothing the chemical burns. He ripped off the cloak and looked down. Serafina had not lied. The estate was swarming with soldiers in tactical gear, black uniforms, silver crosses emblazoned on armbands. They moved with military precision, establishing perimeter, covering exits. My car is at the servants' entrance, Serafina said, pointing to the east gate. An old sedan. They will not be looking for it. We are not taking a sedan, Lucian growled. Lucian, this is a stealth extraction, not a parade. I am the king, he said, buttoning the remnants of his silk shirt. I do not flee in a hatchback. He pointed to the detached garage. The Phantom. Serafina looked at him incredulously. The Rolls-Royce. You want to escape in a vintage Rolls-Royce. It is bulletproof, custom, and mine. You are insane. I am particular. He grabbed her waist. Before she could protest, he leapt. They plummeted 3 stories. Wind screamed past. The ground rushed up. Lucian landed in wet grass with a heavy thud, absorbing the impact, shielding Serafina's body with his own. For a heartbeat, their faces were inches apart. Her violet eyes flared, not with magic this time, with adrenaline. Do not get used to this, she breathed. Warning acknowledged, Lucian said. They sprinted for the garage. Lucian tore the padlock off the door like it was paper. Inside sat the Phantom. His customized 1961 Rolls-Royce, armored, reinforced, and beautiful as sin. He threw himself into the driver's seat. Serafina slid into the passenger side. The engine roared to life with a purr that sounded like caged thunder. Buckle up, Vane, Lucian said. He slammed the car into reverse, smashing through the garage doors. Soldiers turned, weapons raised. Bullets sparked harmlessly off the reinforced chassis. Serafina rolled down her window and fired 3 precise shots from a pistol she had produced from beneath her maid's skirt. 3 soldiers dropped, incapacitated, alive. Lucian noted that. She shoots to wound. Strange for a hunter. He floored the accelerator. The Phantom smashed through the iron gates of Blackwood Manor with a shriek of tortured metal. They screamed onto the main road and disappeared into the fog. Behind them, Corvus stood on the balcony, watching them flee. He pulled a radio from his belt. Target has escaped, Corvus said. He is with the girl. Initiate Protocol 0. Lucian drove in silence for 20 minutes. He wove through the labyrinthine streets of industrial London, checking mirrors, doubling back, ensuring no tail. The rain hammered against the roof like nature itself was trying to beat them into submission. No pursuit. Either the Silver Cross had lost them, or they were confident enough in Protocol 0 to let prey run. Neither possibility comforted him. Pull over here, Serafina said suddenly. They were in the Docklands, an area of abandoned warehouses and rusted shipping containers, the kind of place where bodies were found and questions were not asked. This is a wasteland, Lucian said. Your penthouse in Mayfair is the first place they will look, Serafina snapped. Pull over. My safe house is underground. Lucian parked the Phantom behind a stack of shipping crates. Serafina led him to a rusted storm drain. She tapped a sequence on a hidden keypad behind a loose brick. The grate slid open. After you, she gestured. Lucian descended into darkness. He expected filth, rats, water. Instead, the tunnel opened into a surprisingly clean, reinforced bunker. Computer monitors lined one wall, their screens dark, and a cot sat in the corner. a medical station with enough supplies to perform field surgery, and a weapons rack that would make a small military jealous. Serafina closed the hatch above them and locked it with 3 separate bolts. The silence was deafening. She turned to face him, leaned against the steel door. She looked exhausted. The maid's uniform was torn, stained with soot and rain. Her hair was wild, her face pale. She looked human. Lucian did not give her time to recover. He pinned her against the door, his forearm pressed against her throat. Not enough to crush, enough to warn. "Talk," he commanded her, "fast." Serafina did not flinch. She looked up at him with those defiant violet eyes. "You want the truth?" she rasped. "Fine. My name is Serafina Vane. My grandfather put a stake through your brother's chest in 1897. My mother tried to kill you in Prague. My family has hunted yours for 600 years. "Then why," Lucian said, loosening his grip slightly, "did you save me?" "Because my grandfather was a fool," Serafina said, rubbing her throat as he stepped back. "And because the Silver Cross is not hunting vampires anymore, Lucian, they are hunting us too." Lucian frowned. "Explain." "The Order of the Silver Cross was supposed to keep balance," Serafina said. She walked to the computer and tapped a key. A screen flared to life. Humans and vampires, separate but coexisting. But 5 years ago, a new leader took over. Father Augustine, he does not want balance. He wants eradication, total genocide. And he started with the moderate hunters. He started with the Vane bloodline. The screen showed grainy footage. A mansion, burning. Serafina's back was to Lucian, but he heard the tremor in her voice. "They burned us out," she whispered. "My mother, my father, my little brother. He was 12 years old. They killed them all because we refused to use the bioweapon." "Bioweapon?" Serafina turned around. Her face was carved from ice and grief. "They have developed a virus," she said. "It is airborne. It targets the vampiric gene. If they release it, every vampire in London, every vampire in the world, will die in agony within 48 hours. It dissolves the blood from the inside out." Lucian stared at her. This was not a betrayal he had anticipated. This was extinction. "And Corvus?" "Corvus has the trigger," Serafina said grimly. "He betrayed you because they promised him the cure. He thinks he will be the only vampire left alive, ruling over a kingdom of ashes." Lucian paced the small bunker. The walls closed in. 300 years of survival, and it came down to this. A virus, an invisible enemy. He stopped in front of Serafina. "You still have not answered the question," he said. "Why save me? You could have fled, gone into hiding. Why wake the king?" Serafina hesitated. For the first time her armor cracked. She looked down at her hands. "Because the virus," she said quietly, "needed a base. They could not synthesize it without a pure source." She paused. "They used me." Lucian went very still. "What?" "I was their prisoner for 2 years before I escaped," Serafina confessed. Her voice trembled. "They experimented on me because of my bloodline. Vane blood is potent against vampires. They corrupted it, weaponized it. They used my blood to create the virus." She looked up. Tears brimmed in her eyes. "I am the source, Lucian. My blood is the weapon that will kill your people." She rolled up her sleeve. On her inner arm, black veins branched out like a spider web. Corruption, spreading. "The corruption has been dormant for 2 years, Serafina said. "I managed to slow it with Vane family remedies my mother taught me before she died. Herbal suppressants, blood purification rituals, temporary measures. But 3 weeks ago, something changed. The virus in my blood became active, aggressive." She met his eyes. "Proximity to you triggered it. When I entered your manor, the corruption recognized its target, a royal vampire. It started preparing for dispersal. Now I have 1 week left, maybe less." Lucian looked at the woman before him. Enemy, victim, weapon, ally. "There is a legend," Serafina continued, "a myth in the Hunter archives. It says that if a vein heals a vampire king, and the king shares his strength in return, the two bloodlines fuse. It purifies the corruption. She stepped closer, placed a hand on his chest, over his heart. "I did not just wake you to save the world, Lucian," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I woke you because you are the only thing in this universe that can save me." She swallowed. "I am selfish. I want to live." Lucian looked at her, a mortal enemy, a spy, a woman who had broken into his home and played him for a fool. But as he looked at the black veins crawling up her arm, he did not feel anger. He felt something far more dangerous. He took her hand, his cold fingers interlaced with her warm ones. "You saved the king," Lucian said. His eyes glowed a soft, protective crimson. "So now the king owes you a debt." Outside, the rain fell harder. Inside, two ancient bloodlines stood on the precipice of war. And somewhere in London, a timer was counting down to the end of everything. The bunker smelled of concrete and old blood. Lucian stood before the wall of monitors, while Serafina worked the keyboard with the efficiency of someone who had spent years planning for this exact moment. Her fingers flew across keys. Screens flickered to life, each displaying fragments of a conspiracy that had been growing in the dark while he slept through centuries. "How long have you been preparing this?" Lucian asked. 2 years, Serafina said without looking up. "Since the night I escaped Augustine's laboratory." A map of London materialized on the central screen. Red dots marked locations across the city. Silver Cross safe houses, weapons depots, command centers hidden inside churches that had forgotten the meaning of sanctuary. 53 active cells, Serafina said, each one equipped with holy mist grenades, UV weaponry, and enough silver ammunition to start a war. "They have started a war," Lucian corrected. He studied the map with the eye of a general who had commanded armies when London was still burning peat for warmth. "They simply have not announced it yet." Serafina pulled up another file. This one showed schematics, technical diagrams that meant nothing to Lucian's 3-century-old eyes, but everything to the sick feeling coiling in his gut. "The bioweapon," she said. "Codename, Revelation, airborne dispersal, incubation period of 6 hours. Once activated, every vampire within a 50-mile radius begins hemorrhaging from the inside. Death follows in 48 hours. No cure, no treatment, no survivors." She zoomed in on a molecular diagram. Even through his ignorance of modern science, Lucian recognized the base structure. Blood cells, corrupted, weaponized, her blood. "They extracted 97 samples from me," Serafina continued. Her voice was clinical now, detached, the tone of someone who had screamed all the screams she had in her, and now could only recite facts. "Each extraction took 3 pints. I nearly died 14 times. They kept me alive with transfusions from the others." "What others?" "Other hunters they captured. Families who refused to join Augustine's crusade." She pulled up photographs, faces, men, women, children, all marked with a red X. "They are all dead now. I am the last of the vein line." Lucian placed a hand on her shoulder. She flinched, then relaxed. "Not the last," he said. "Not while I breathe." Serafina looked up at him. Her violet eyes searched his face for mockery or manipulation. She found neither. "You would protect a vein?" she asked. "After everything my family has done to yours?" "Your family fought for what they believed was right," Lucian said. "My brother died honorably on your grandfather's stake. There is no debt of vengeance there. Only the respect warriors show other warriors." He moved to the weapons rack, selected a silver-edged combat knife, tested the balance. "Perfect. Besides," he added, "I dislike being told when to die. It offends my sense of timing." Serafina almost smiled. Almost. "So what now?" she asked. "Augustine has the virus. Corvus has the trigger. We have a bunker and a vintage car." "Now," Lucian said, sheathing the knife, "we do what I have done for 300 years. We turn their strength into weakness, their numbers into chaos, their certainty into doubt." He pointed at the map. Show me the Aurelius Tower. The Aurelius Tower pierced the London skyline like a glass knife aimed at heaven's throat. 97 floors of steel and arrogance, owned according to public records by a multinational investment firm with ties to pharmaceutical research and private military contracts. According to Serafina's intelligence, it was the Silver Cross's crown jewel, their headquarters, their fortress, and tonight, their auction house. "Midnight Gala," Serafina said, pulling up an invitation on the screen. Embossed silver lettering on black card stock. Black tie charity event. Cover for a black market auction happening in the VIP lounge on the 45th floor. What are they selling? Territories, Serafina said. When the virus releases, the power vacuum will be catastrophic. Augustine is auctioning off the rights to claim vampire strongholds across Europe. London, Paris, Prague, Berlin. The buyers are already circling. Lucian leaned closer to the screen. The guest list read like a catalog of supernatural players who should have known better than to gamble on genocide. Scottish lichen pack, high witch covens of Cornwall, Russian oligarchs with vampire connections, all of them willing to pay for the privilege of looting a dying empire. They think they are buying territory, Lucian said. They are actually buying targets. Augustine will turn on them the moment vampires are extinct. Witches, shifters, anyone with non-human blood. Probably, Serafina agreed, but greed makes people stupid. Lucian studied the building schematics. 45 floors, multiple security checkpoints, biometric scanners, armed guards on every level. And somewhere inside, Corvus held the trigger device. The server room is on the 40th floor, Serafina said. If I can hack their internal network, I can locate the trigger's exact position. Corvus has to keep it close to the transmission tower on the roof. That is where the viral dispersal system is installed. How long to hack? 10 minutes, maybe 15. I can give you 20, Lucian said. But I will need a distraction, something that draws security away from the server floor. Serafina pulled up another file. This one showed a list of names. Old debts, she said. People who owe you favors. Some of them might still honor those debts. Lucian scanned the list. Most were dead. Some had betrayed him years ago. A few remained. His eyes stopped on two names. Gregor MacLeod, Scottish Lichen Alpha. Morgana Blackthorn, High Witch of Cornwall. Gregor owes me from 1924, Lucian said. I will not mention the poker game. He will know. And the witch? Morgana owes me from 1666. I saved her mother from the witch trials. She has been paying that debt in installments for 3 centuries. Serafina raised an eyebrow. You collect debts like stamps. I collect leverage, Lucian corrected. In my world, favors owed are a currency more reliable than gold. He pulled out a burner phone from his coat pocket, dialed a number he had not called in decades. 3 rings, then a voice like gravel and whiskey. Ashford, I heard you were dead. Gregor, Lucian said. The rumors were premature. Shame. I was looking forward to the estate sale. I need a favor. Silence on the line. Then a long theatrical sigh. The poker game. The poker game. Bloody hell, fine. What do you need? Information only, no combat. I need to know what the Silver Cross is planning tonight. You are on the guest list for the Aurelius auction. Another pause. Lucian heard ice clinking in a glass. Gregor was always drinking. It was one of his more endearing qualities. I am on the list, Gregor admitted. But if I feed you intelligence and Augustine finds out, my pack becomes target practice. If you do not feed me intelligence and Augustine succeeds, Lucian said, your pack dies with the rest of us. This is not just vampire extinction, Gregor. This is the opening move in a purge that ends with every non-human in a mass grave. Silence. Then, what do you need to know? Floor layouts, guard rotations, and anything you hear about Protocol Zero. Protocol Zero? The endgame. I need to know when they plan to release the virus. Gregor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its casual mockery. "Lucian, if half of what I am hearing is true, you are walking into a slaughterhouse." "I have been walking into slaughterhouses since before your great-grandfather was born," Lucian said. "This one just has better lighting." He hung up, dialed the second number. This call was answered on the first ring. "Lord Ashford," Morgana's voice was silk over iron. "I wondered when you would call. You knew I would need you. I saw it in the smoke 3 weeks ago. You and the hunter girl, standing in fire that does not burn. Prophecy is vague work, Morgana. Prophecy is all I have to offer. I will not fight for you tonight. My coven cannot afford open war with the Silver Cross. I am not asking you to fight. I am asking you to look away at the right moment." A pause, then a low chuckle. "I can do that. What else?" "I need an artifact, something to counter UV weaponry, just for a few hours." "The Veil of Shadows," Morgana said immediately. "It will absorb ultraviolet energy and convert it to harmless heat. But it is fragile. One sustained blast, and it shatters." "It will suffice. I will have it delivered to your location within the hour." "Thank you, Morgana." "Do not thank me yet, Lucian. The smoke showed me something else. The hunter girl carries death in her veins. If you bond with her, you will change into something the world has never seen. And the world fears what it does not understand. The world has feared me for 3 centuries. I am accustomed to it. This is different. This is—" The line went dead. Lucian stared at the phone. Morgana never cut calls short. Something had spooked her. Prophecy was vague work indeed. He turned back to Serafina. "We have intelligence coming. And UV protection. Now we need entry credentials." Serafina grinned. It was the first genuine smile he had seen on her face. "Leave that to me." 2 hours later, Lucian stood in a Mayfair boutique that catered to clients who paid in cash and asked no questions. Serafina had procured invitations to the Aurelius Gala through methods she declined to explain. Lucian suspected blackmail, possibly murder. He did not ask for details. Now they needed to look the part. The tailor was a nervous man with measuring tape around his neck and the expression of someone who knew his clients were dangerous but needed the money too badly to care. "The Armani," Lucian said, pointing to a midnight black tuxedo. "Tailored. Ready in 1 hour." "Sir, tailoring typically requires 3 days." Lucian placed a stack of bills on the counter, £5,000. 1 hour." "Yes, sir." While the tailor worked, Serafina emerged from the dressing room in a midnight blue silk gown that transformed her from invisible maid to something that could stop traffic and break hearts. The dress clung to her frame like water. High neckline, no back, a slit up the left leg that suggested danger and promised grace. Lucian stared. "Stop looking at me like that," Serafina said. "Like what?" "Like I am a weapon you just discovered is also a work of art." "You are both," Lucian said simply. Serafina's cheeks colored. She turned away, pretending to examine shoes. "This is tactical," she said. "I need to blend with the crowd. Appear harmless, unthreatening." "You will blend," Lucian agreed, "but harmless is not the word I would use." The tailor returned with the tuxedo. Lucian dressed in the back room. The suit fit perfectly. Black jacket, white shirt, silver cufflinks shaped like gargoyles. He looked at himself in the mirror. 304 years old, still capable of vanity, still capable of war. When he emerged, Serafina was waiting. She had swept her hair into an elegant twist, applied minimal makeup that accentuated her eyes. The violet was hidden beneath brown contact lenses, but Lucian could still see it, the hunter beneath the disguise. "Ready?" she asked. "One more thing," Lucian said. He reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a small wooden box. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a silver bracelet, delicate, ancient, inscribed with runes that predated Christianity. "The Veil of Shadows," Lucian said. "Courtesy of Morgana. It will protect us from UV weaponry, but only for a limited time." He clasped it around Serafina's wrist. His fingers lingered on her pulse. still too slow, still poisoned. "We are running out of time," she said softly. "Then we move faster." The elevator to the Aurelius penthouse was gold-plated and obscene. Lucian and Seraphina stood side by side, watching their reflections multiply in mirrored walls. They looked like royalty attending a funeral. Elegant, dangerous, profoundly out of place. "Remember," Seraphina whispered, "we are not here to fight, not yet. We need to find the trigger device before Corvus activates it. If we start a brawl in the ballroom, he will panic and release the virus." "I am excellent at diplomacy," Lucian said. "Lucian, the last time you were diplomatic, you started the Crimean War." "That was a misunderstanding involving a duchess and a misplaced declaration of territorial intent. You invaded Sevastopol. The duchess was very persuasive." The elevator doors opened. The noise of the gala washed over them. Clinking crystal, polite laughter, a string quartet playing Mozart with mathematical precision, and zero soul. The ballroom was a cathedral to wealth. Chandeliers dripped light like melted diamonds. Marble floors reflected faces of the powerful and damned. Waiters circulated with champagne that cost more per glass than most humans earned in a week. And hidden among the glittering crowd, Lucian's predator senses identified the real players. The Scottish alpha, Gregor MacLeod, stood near an ice sculpture shaped like a wolf. He wore a kilt and a tailored jacket looking like a Highland laird who had wandered into the wrong century. He caught Lucian's eye, nodded once. Message received. Across the room, Morgana Blackthorne conversed with a senator. The High Witch wore emerald silk and an expression of supreme boredom, but her eyes tracked Lucian's entrance. She lifted her champagne glass in subtle salute. And there, near the bar, was Lord Cassius, the council elder who would soon declare Lucian's line finished. Cassius was old, older than Lucian by a century. He wore his age in the cruel intelligence behind pale eyes. When he saw Lucian, his champagne glass paused halfway to his lips. Shock. Then calculation. Cassius crossed the ballroom in smooth strides. "Lord Ashford," he said, voice dripping false warmth, "the rumors of your demise were clearly exaggerated." "Hello, Cassius," Lucian said. "Still collecting territories like trading cards, I see. One must stay occupied in eternity. I heard you entered the eternal slumber. How remarkably swift your recovery." "I am resilient." Cassius's gaze slid to Seraphina. His nostrils flared. "And your companion is mine," Lucian said flatly. "That is all you need to know." Cassius smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "Of course. Well, enjoy the evening. I believe there are some excellent investment opportunities being discussed in the VIP lounge." He melted back into the crowd. "He knows," Seraphina whispered. "Of course he knows. Cassius has survived 4 centuries by knowing everything. But he will not move against us here. Too many witnesses." "Then where is Corvus?" As if summoned by name, the crowd parted near the grand staircase. Corvus Blackwood descended like a king entering his own coronation. He had changed since the manor. Gone was the lieutenant's humble deference. Now he wore power like a second skin. Black suit, red tie, silver cufflinks shaped like crosses. His wounds from the Kronos blast had healed completely, and at his side walked a ghost. She was pale, translucent almost. Long black hair cascaded down a white dress that belonged in a different era. Her eyes were empty, not dead, but not quite alive. "Isabel," Lucian breathed. Seraphina looked at him sharply. "Who?" "Someone I killed a century ago." Lucian had met Isabelle Marchand in Paris, 1889. She had been a dancer at the Moulin Rouge, beautiful in the way that doomed things are beautiful. She had laughed when he revealed himself as vampire, asked if eternal life came with eternal youth. He had turned her, they had loved. And then the madness came. Not all vampires survived the turning. Some minds broke under the weight of immortality. Isabel had been one of them. She became feral, violent, began hunting children in the streets of Montmartre. Lucian had done what was necessary. He had driven a stake through her heart and buried her in an unmarked grave. Corvus had been there. Corvus had loved her too. Loved her first, actually, before Lucian's turning. The triangle had destroyed all three of them, and now she walked again. Impossible, Lucian whispered. Necromancy, Seraphina said. Augustine must have promised Corvus resurrection. They watched as Corvus led Isabel through the crowd. She moved like a puppet on strings. No recognition in her eyes, no life. A shell animated by dark magic. Corvus saw Lucian. Their eyes met across the ballroom. Corvus smiled. Then he turned and climbed the stairs toward the VIP lounge. "We need to move," Seraphina said. "If Corvus is here, the trigger is close." "You go to the server room," Lucian said. "I will follow Corvus." "Lucian, we agreed." "Plans change." He gripped her hand. "Corvus is my responsibility. My mistake. I should have ended him cleanly when I had the chance. You are letting emotion cloud tactics." "I am letting 3 centuries of regret guide strategy," Lucian corrected. "There is a difference." Seraphina studied his face, then nodded. 20 minutes, she said. "If you are not at the extraction point, I leave without you." "Liar. You would storm the building." She almost smiled. 20 minutes. They split. Lucian moved through the crowd like a shark through shallow water. Guests parted instinctively. Some recognized him. Most simply felt the predator and made space. He reached the stairs, climbed. The VIP lounge occupied the entire 45th floor. Private rooms, auction houses, secure conference chambers where deals were made that would never see daylight. Security stopped him at the entrance. 2 men, military build, silver crosses on lapels. "Invitation, sir." Lucian produced the stolen card. The guard scanned it with a UV reader. "Welcome, Lord Ashford. Please enjoy the evening." He stepped into the lounge. It was quieter here, darker. The lights were dim, amber. Leather chairs, oak tables, the atmosphere of exclusive clubs where revolutions were planned and monarchs overthrown. In the center of the room, an auction was in progress. A tall man in priest's robes stood at a podium. White hair, severe features, eyes like winter frost. Father Augustine. "Lot 17, Augustine announced. "Territorial rights to the Prague underworld. Opening bid, 5 million euros. Hands raised. Bidding commenced. Lucian scanned the room. Corvus sat in the corner. Isabel beside him, staring at nothing. On the table in front of Corvus sat a small metal case. The trigger. Lucian began moving toward them, slowly, casually. Just another guest admiring the auction. Then Augustine spoke. "And now, gentlemen, the item you have all been waiting for. Lot 21, full access to the viral dispersal network. Upon successful bid, you will receive control codes to activate Revelation Protocol in any city of your choosing." The room went silent. "Opening bid," Augustine said. 100 million euros. Chaos. Hands shot up, voices shouted numbers. The price climbed like fever. And through it all, Corvus sat motionless, watching Lucian approach. When Lucian was 10 feet away, Corvus spoke. "Hello, brother. Do not call me that." "Why? You gave me that title when you saved me from the noose. You said we were family." "Family does not betray," Corvus laughed. It was a hollow sound. "You betrayed me first. You took Isabel. You turned her. You killed her. I saved her from becoming a monster." "You made her a monster!" Corvus slammed his hand on the table. The metal case jumped. "She was fine before you touched her. We were going to leave Paris, start over. But you could not let anyone be happy without your permission." Lucian stared at the shell of Isabel. "That is not Isabel," he said quietly. "That is a corpse Augustine reanimated to control you. She is gone, Corvus. Let her rest." "No." Corvus touched Isabel's hand. She did not react. "Augustine promised me, if I help with the purge, he will restore her fully, her soul, her memories, everything." "He lied. You would say that?" "Corvus." Lucian stepped closer. "Look at her eyes. There is nothing there. Augustine is using your grief as leash." For a moment, doubt flickered across Corvus's face. Then Augustine's voice cut through the room. "Sold! To the gentleman from Moscow. 170 million euros." Applause. Augustine looked directly at Lucian. "Lord Ashford, how delightful! I was hoping you would attend." The room shifted. Guards materialized from shadows. 20 men, armed with crossbows and UV pistols. "Seize him!" Augustine commanded. Lucian moved. Lucian was 304 years old. He had survived the Inquisition, the Black Plague, 2 world wars, countless assassination attempts. He was very, very good at violence. The first guard lunged with a UV-charged baton. Lucian caught his wrist, twisted, snapped bone. The baton fell. Lucian caught it midair and drove it into the second guard's throat. The room exploded into chaos. Guests screamed, scattered. Morgana's coven members created a shield wall of green light, protecting neutral parties. Gregor's pack shifted partially, claws extended, not attacking, just ready. Augustine retreated toward a secured door. Corvus grabbed the metal case and Isabel, running. Lucian fought through the guards with surgical precision. UV rounds burned his skin where they hit. The Veil of Shadows bracelet glowed, absorbing most of the radiation, but it was weakening. A guard swung a silver chain. Lucian ducked, kicked the man's knee backward. Bone shattered. The guard fell, screaming. 3 more came at once. Lucian was faster. He broke the first one's neck, disarmed the second. Used the third as a human shield against incoming fire. Then the reinforcements arrived. The elevator doors opened. 20 more guards poured out. Too many. Even Lucian had limits. He grabbed a fallen crossbow, fired 3 bolts in rapid succession. 3 guards dropped, but more came. A UV grenade landed at his feet. Lucian kicked it. The device arced through the air, exploded near the ceiling. White light flooded the room. The Veil of Shadows bracelet cracked, shattered. His skin began to blister. This was not sustainable. He needed to retreat. Find Serafina. Regroup. Lucian crashed through the nearest window. Glass shattered. He fell 45 stories. Wind screamed. The ground rushed up. At the last second, he grabbed a flagpole, swung, crashed through a window 10 floors down, landed in an office. Empty. Dark. Alarms wailed. Lucian checked his wounds. Burns across his arms. Deep, but healing. He pulled out his phone, called Serafina. "Status," he barked. "Server room compromised," she panted. "They were waiting. I am pinned down on 40. Cannot reach extraction. I am coming." "Negative. Corvus is moving to the roof. He has the trigger. If he reaches the transmission tower, I will handle Corvus. You get out." "Lucian, that is an order." He hung up, stared at his reflection in the darkened window. Bleeding. Burned. Outnumbered. Exactly where he belonged. He smiled. Then he ran. Lucian took the stairs. Elevators were death traps. Stairs could be controlled. He moved upward in a blur. 46th floor. 47th. Guards tried to stop him. He went through them like they were paper. 50th floor. 60. His wounds were closing. Vampire regeneration was slow but steady. 70. He heard footsteps above. Corvus. Running. 80. The stairwell ended. Roof access. Lucian kicked the door off its hinges. Wind and rain hit him like a physical force. The roof of the Aurelius Tower was a forest of satellite dishes and transmission equipment. In the center, a massive antenna array reached toward the sky like skeletal fingers. Corvus stood before it, the metal case open. Inside, a device glowed violet. Screens displayed readouts, biometric scanners, a single red button. "Stop," Lucian commanded. Corvus looked up. Rain plastered his hair to his skull. His eyes were wild. "I cannot," Corvus said. "I have come too far." "Augustine lied to you. Isabel cannot be restored." "You do not know that. I know necromancy. I know dark magic. What Augustine animated is not her soul. It is an echo, a memory given false life." Corvus's hand hovered over the trigger button. "If I do not do this," he said, "she stays dead, forever." "If you do this," Lucian said, stepping closer, "millions die, and you become the monster you always feared becoming." Thunder rolled across the sky. "I loved her," Corvus whispered. "You never understood that. You took everything from me." "I know, and I am sorry." Corvus looked at him, shock registered. "What?" "I am sorry," Lucian repeated. "I was arrogant, selfish. I took Isabel because I could, not because she wanted me, not because it was right. I stole your future and called it love." Rain fell between them. "But this," Lucian gestured to the device, "this is not justice. This is genocide, and Isabel would hate you for it." Corvus's finger trembled on the button. For a long moment, nothing moved except the rain. Then Corvus crushed the trigger device with his bare hand. Sparks flew. The violet glow died. "Thank you," Lucian said. Then Father Augustine stepped out of the shadows behind Corvus. In his hand, a UV blade, glowing white-hot. "Disappointing," Augustine said. He drove the blade through Corvus's back, straight through the heart. Corvus gasped. Blood bubbled from his lips. Augustine twisted the blade. "You were always expendable," the priest said. "The trigger was never the real weapon." Corvus fell. Lucian roared and lunged, but Augustine was faster than any human should be. Blessed, enhanced. They collided. The UV blade slashed across Lucian's chest. Pain exploded, deeper than any wound he had taken in decades. Augustine smiled. "You are too late, vampire. The real trigger was never mechanical." He pulled out a syringe filled with violet liquid. It was biological. He jammed the needle into Corvus's dying body. Corvus convulsed. Black veins erupted across his skin. "No," Lucian breathed. Augustine laughed. "Corvus's blood is now the carrier, and when his heart stops, the dispersal begins. You cannot save him without releasing the virus. You cannot kill him without starting the apocalypse." Augustine ran to the edge of the roof. Jumped. A parachute deployed. Lucian watched him descend into the London night. Then he turned to Corvus. His brother was dying. The virus was activating, and somewhere in the tower below, Serafina was running for her life. Lucian had 60 seconds to decide. Save Corvus and doom the world, or let him die and start the extinction. The rain fell harder, and Lucian made his choice. 60 seconds. That was how long Corvus had left before his heart stopped beating. 60 seconds before the virus in his corrupted blood would aerosolize and spread across London like invisible fire. 60 seconds to save a brother or save a species. Lucian knelt in the rain beside Corvus. His brother's eyes were glazing over. Black veins crawled across his face like cracks in porcelain. The UV wound in his chest, smoked despite the downpour. "Lucian," Corvus rasped. Blood frothed at his lips. "I am sorry. Save your strength. No, let me say it." Corvus's hand gripped Lucian's sleeve with failing strength. "I was weak, jealous. Augustine played me like a fool. I thought I could bring her back." Lucian looked at Isabel's reanimated corpse. It stood motionless in the rain, empty eyes staring at nothing. Augustine had abandoned it when he fled. Without his necromantic control, it was just meat wearing the shape of someone they had both loved. "She was already gone," Lucian said quietly. "We both lost her in Paris." "I know," Corvus coughed. More blood. "But I could not accept it, and now I am the weapon, the thing that kills us all." 45 seconds. Lucian's mind raced through options with the cold calculation that had kept him alive for 3 centuries. Option 1, keep Corvus alive. The virus would remain dormant as long as his heart beat. But Augustine had designed this trap perfectly. Corvus was dying from the UV wound. Even vampire regeneration could not heal damage this severe. He would last minutes, maybe an hour if Lucian gave him blood. And then the dispersal would begin anyway. Option 2, kill Corvus now, end his suffering. Accept the viral release and hope Serafina could somehow neutralize it before the 6-hour incubation period ended. Impossible. She was 40 floors down, pinned by Silver Cross soldiers. Option 3. There was no option 3, unless. 30 seconds. Corvus, Lucian said, the bioweapon, it uses your blood as carrier. What if your blood was not corrupted? What? The king's bond. The fusion that purifies vein corruption. If it works on Serafina, it might work on you. Corvus's eyes widened. You would bond with me? Share your royal essence? You are my brother. I failed you once. I will not fail you again. Lucian, the bond requires both parties to sacrifice willingly, to share strength. I am dying. I have no strength left to give. 20 seconds. Lucian grabbed Corvus's hand, bit his own wrist. Let his ancient blood well up. Then give me your death, Lucian said. Let me carry the virus. Let me absorb the corruption. My body is stronger, older. I can contain it long enough for Serafina to... The rooftop door exploded open. Serafina burst through. She was bleeding from a gash above her eye. Her dress was torn. She held a pistol in one hand and a stolen UV baton in the other. She took in the scene instantly. Corvus dying, Lucian preparing to bond. The timer counting down in everyone's shared awareness. No, she said. 15 seconds. Serafina, I can contain the virus long enough for you to... You cannot, she interrupted. She dropped the weapons and ran to them, fell to her knees in the rain. The corruption does not work that way. It does not dilute in stronger blood. It multiplies. If you bond with him, the virus will use your royal bloodline as amplifier. Instead of killing vampires in London, it will kill vampires worldwide. Then what do we do? Lucian demanded. 10 seconds. Serafina looked at Corvus, then at Lucian. We do what Augustine did not expect, she said. We change the equation. She pulled the silver knife from Lucian's belt sheath, slashed her own palm. Blood welled up, black-veined and corrupted. I am already the source, she said. My blood created the virus. Maybe my blood can unmake it. 9 seconds. She grabbed Corvus's hand, pressed her bleeding palm against his. What are you doing? Lucian asked. Reverse synthesis, Serafina said through gritted teeth. If the virus was made from my vein corruption, then pure vein essence should neutralize it. But I do not have pure essence. I am dying too. 8 seconds. But you do, she said to Lucian. You have the bond, the fusion we have been planning. We have not completed the ritual. We complete it now, Serafina said. She grabbed Lucian's bleeding wrist with her free hand. 3-way bond. Your royal strength, my vein corruption. Corvus's dying essence. We create a closed loop. The virus has nowhere to disperse. 7 seconds. Lucian understood. It was insane. It was brilliant. It would probably kill all 3 of them. Do it, Corvus whispered. 6 seconds. Lucian pressed his wrist against Serafina's mouth. Drink. She did not hesitate. Her teeth found the vein. She drank deep. 5 seconds. Power exploded through the connection. Lucian felt Serafina's corruption flood into him, black, cold, burning like frozen fire, but behind it came something else. Pure vein essence, the hunter's gift, the thing that could harm his kind and heal his kind in equal measure. 4 seconds. The corruption hit Corvus. His body convulsed. The black veins in his chest began to recede. 3 seconds. Serafina pulled back from Lucian's wrist, grabbed Corvus's face, forced her bleeding palm against his mouth. Drink, she commanded. Take it back. Take the corruption back into the source. 2 seconds. Corvus drank. The virus in his blood recognized its origin, recognized home. It flowed back into Serafina. 1 second. Corvus's heart stopped. The world exploded in violet light. Lucian felt his consciousness shatter into 3 fragments. He was himself, kneeling on a rooftop in the rain. He was Serafina, feeling corruption burn through veins that had carried it for 2 years. He was Corvus, dying and grateful for it. The three bloodlines collided: vampire, hunter, and something in between. The fusion was not gentle. It was violence on a cellular level. Every drop of blood in Lucian's body ignited. His bones felt like they were melting and reforming. His heart, which beat once per hour in the stillness, now hammered like war drums. Seraphina screamed. Her black veins flared brilliant violet. The corruption was not being destroyed. It was being transformed, purified through the crucible of three bloodlines merging into something that had never existed before. Corvus gasped one final breath. "Thank you, brother." His heart stopped for the last time, but the virus did not release. It had nowhere to go. Lucian, Seraphina, and Corvus's fading essence formed a triangle of power. The virus was trapped inside, compressed, refined, and then it began to change. The viral corruption that Augustine had weaponized was meeting resistance it was never designed to encounter: royal vampire strength, ancient hunter immunity, and the dying wish of a redeemed traitor who wanted his final act to mean something. The virus began to cannibalize itself, eating its own corrupted code, collapsing inward like a dying star. Lucian felt the moment it died, a silent implosion in his bloodstream. The violet light faded. The rain continued to fall. Corvus's body lay still, peaceful. The black veins were gone. In death, he looked young again, the way he had looked in 1874 when Lucian saved him from the gallows. Seraphina collapsed against Lucian's chest. She was barely conscious. Her arm, which had been a spiderweb of corruption for 2 years, was now smooth, pale, unmarked. "Did it work?" she whispered. "It worked," Lucian said. He looked at his own hands. They were glowing faintly. Not red, not violet, both. A swirling crimson-violet aurora beneath his skin. He felt different, stronger, faster, more aware. But also something else. He looked east. The rain was thinning, clouds beginning to break. Dawn was coming. For 304 years, dawn had meant death. Now, for the first time, Lucian wondered. "We need to move," Seraphina said, struggling to stand. "The Silver Cross will send reinforcements." "Let them come." "Lucian, I am tired of running, Seraphina. I am tired of hiding. I am tired of letting predators like Augustine hunt my people in the dark." He stood, pulled Seraphina to her feet. "We end this. Tonight." "How?" Lucian looked at Corvus's body, then at Isabel's empty shell. "We give them what they fear most," he said. "We show them what happens when a king stops playing by their rules." They descended through the Aurelius Tower like avenging angels, or demons. The distinction had always been subjective. Lucian no longer bothered with stealth. He walked through the main corridors. Let the security cameras see him. Let them sound alarms. Guards came. He went through them with controlled precision. But he did not kill. That was the strange part. Some new instinct, born from the fusion, made him pull his strikes. Break bones instead of necks. Dislocate shoulders instead of tearing them off entirely. Seraphina fought beside him. She was no longer the invisible maid. She moved with the lethal grace of a hunter who had survived 2 years of torture and come out harder. Between them, they were unstoppable. 40th floor, 30th to 20th. They reached the main ballroom. The gala had descended into chaos. Guests were fleeing. The Council of 12 stood in the center of the room, surrounded by their personal guards. Lord Cassius saw Lucian approaching. "Stop them," he ordered. 20 guards moved to intercept. Lucian raised his hand. He did not know what instinct made him do it. Some new muscle memory from the fusion, some gift from Seraphina's bloodline merging with his own. Violet light erupted from his palm, not a blast, a wave. It washed over the guards like invisible water. Their weapons fell from nerveless fingers. Their knees buckled. They collapsed, unconscious, but alive. The ballroom went silent. Cassius stared. "Impossible. That is vain magic. You are vampire." "I was," Lucian said. Now I am something you do not have a word for yet." He walked toward the council, Seraphina beside him. "The silver cross is broken," Lucian announced. His voice filled the vast room with absolute authority. "Father Augustine has fled. The bioweapon is neutralized. The threat is ended." "And you expect us to simply accept this?" Lady Isolde demanded. She was tall, pale, beautiful in the way winter storms are beautiful. "You disappear for weeks. Return with a hunter. Claim victory over a threat we were never informed of. Why should we trust anything you say?" "Because I am offering you a choice," Lucian said. "You can continue the old ways, hiding in shadows, fearing the sunrise, fighting an endless war with hunters and human governments, dying slowly by inches." He paused. "Or you can accept that the world has changed, that vampires and hunters both have a common enemy now, and that together we are stronger than apart." "You speak of alliance with the vain," Cassius said carefully. "They have hunted us for 6 centuries. "And we have hunted humans for longer," Lucian said. "Every war ends eventually. The only question is whether we end it on our terms or theirs." "This is madness," Isolde hissed. "The council will never—" The eastern window shattered, not from an explosion, from light. Pure, golden light. Dawn had arrived. The first rays of sunrise speared through the ballroom. Vampires screamed, scattered, dove for shadows. But Lucian stood motionless. The sunlight hit him. For 304 years, this touch had meant instant death. Skin blistering, flesh burning, bones turning to ash. Now it felt like warmth, just warmth. The ballroom froze. Every vampire stared. Lucian extended his hand into the beam of light, watched it illuminate his skin, watched the crimson-violet glow beneath the surface intensify in response. "This is what I am offering," he said quietly. "Evolution, not extinction." He looked at Seraphina. She stepped into the light beside him. The sunrise painted her in gold. Her violet eyes blazed. Together they looked like something from legend. A king who conquered death. A hunter who saved her enemies, standing in light that should have killed them both. "Join me," Lucian said to the council, "or stand aside. But the old world is dead. The new one begins today." Cassius stared, calculated. Survived 4 centuries by knowing when to fight and when to fold. He knelt, one knee on marble floor, head bowed. "Long live the king," Cassius said. Isolde looked at him like he had lost his mind. "Cassius, you cannot be serious." "Look at him, Isolde." Cassius's voice was steel. "He stands in daylight. He wields vain magic. He bonded with the hunter and survived. Whatever he is now, he is stronger than anything the council has seen in 1,000 years." Isolde looked at Lucian, at Seraphina, at the sunrise behind them. She knelt. One by one, the council followed. 12 elders, 12 knees touching marble. "Long live the king," they echoed. "Long live the queen." 2 days passed. London did not notice that a war had ended. London never did. The city had survived Romans and plague and fire and blitz. A few supernatural factions settling accounts was just Tuesday. But the underworld noticed. Word spread through blood bars and coven houses and packed territories. The king had returned, changed, bonded with a vain hunter, walked in daylight. Some called it miracle, others called it abomination. All of them called it power. On the 3rd day, the Council of 12 arrived at Blackwood Manor, not as guests, as predators testing whether the new king could hold his throne. They brought guards, weapons, the confidence of elders who had survived centuries by eliminating threats before they became problems. Lucian and Seraphina waited in the great library, the same room where Seraphina had served him tea 3 weeks ago, when she had been invisible, when he had been sleeping through the apocalypse. Everything had changed. The doors opened. Cassius entered first. His retinue followed. 12 vampires who controlled territories from Edinburgh to Istanbul. They looked at the throne at the head of the library. It was empty. Lucian stood by the window instead. Seraphina beside him. Both dressed casually. No ceremony, no pretense. "You summoned us," Cassius said. His tone was carefully neutral. "Here we are." "I did not summon," Lucian corrected. "I invited. There is a difference." "Semantics." "Precision." Lucian turned from the window. "You came to my home uninvited 3 days ago. You sat in my chair. You divided my territory like I was already ash. I could have taken offense." Cassius's jaw tightened. "We acted on information that suggested that I was weak. Dying. Vulnerable." Lucian nodded. "Yes, I know. That was the point." He walked to the center of the room. "The sleep test was never about finding traitors in my manor. It was about finding traitors in my counsel." The temperature dropped. "You are accusing us?" Lady Isolde demanded. "I am observing," Lucian said. "Corvus was the knife, but someone sharpened him. Someone told him about the Silver Cross. Someone opened channels between Augustine and my inner circle." He looked at each elder in turn. "I know who, but I am offering amnesty, one time. Confess now, accept exile, and live. Or stay silent, and when I find proof, there will be no mercy." Silence. Then one of the younger elders, a vampire named Victor from Prague, stepped forward. "It was me," he said. His voice shook. "Augustine approached me 5 years ago, offered territorial expansion if I fed him intelligence on your operations. I thought it was just information. I did not know about the bioweapon until it was too late." Lucian studied him. Victor was old, not as old as Cassius, but old enough to know better. "Thank you for your honesty," Lucian said. "You have 24 hours to leave London. Your territories are forfeit. If I see you again, I will end you. Do you understand?" Victor bowed. "Yes, my lord." He left. Lucian looked at the remaining 11. "Anyone else?" No one moved. "Good. Then we can discuss the future." He gestured to the table. Maps were spread across the surface. Charts. Documents. "The Silver Cross is wounded, but not dead," Lucian said. "Augustine escaped. He will rebuild. And when he does, he will come with more than just bioweapons." "So what do you propose?" Cassius asked. "Alliance," Seraphina said. She spoke for the first time. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had earned the right to be heard. "The Vane family is gone. I am the last. But the knowledge remains. 600 years of hunting your kind taught us your weaknesses. I can teach you to defend against them." "In exchange for what?" Isolde asked. "Protection," Seraphina said. "Recognition. A seat at this table. The hunters who survived Augustine's purge are scattered, hunted. If we join with you, we become enforcers instead of enemies. We police the supernatural community, keep the rogue elements in check, maintain the balance." "Hunters working for vampires," Isolde said flatly. "You expect us to trust that?" "I expect you to trust results," Seraphina said. "The Silver Cross nearly exterminated you. I stopped them. That should count for something." Cassius looked at Lucian. "And what is her role in your court?" "Queen Consort," Lucian said. "General of the Hunter Division. My partner, my equal." "You cannot be serious." "I am entirely serious." Lucian's voice went cold. "Seraphina saved my life. Saved this city. Saved the entire vampire species from extinction. She has earned every title I give her. If you have a problem with that, leave now." No one moved. "Good," Lucian said. "Then we are in agreement. The Vane Hunters are under my protection. Any vampire who harms them answers to me directly. Is that clear?" Reluctant nods. "The Silver Cross assets in London are forfeit," Lucian continued. "Their safe houses, weapons, and intelligence networks are to be seized and distributed among the Council territories. Cassius will oversee the division." Cassius raised an eyebrow. "You trust me with that much power?" "I trust you to be pragmatic," Lucian said, "and pragmatism is what we need right now." He looked at the assembled elders. "The old world is dead. Vampires hiding in shadows, hunters striking from darkness. That era is finished. We adapt or we die, and I have no intention of dying." "What about the humans?" a voice asked. "Lord Henrik from Berlin. They outnumber us 1,000 to 1. If they learn what we are, they already know," Lucian said. "Governments have known for centuries. They tolerate us because we maintain control, because we keep the supernatural world from spilling into theirs. That arrangement continues, but on our terms now, not theirs." He straightened. "This is the new order. London is the capital. I am the king. Seraphina is the queen. The council advises but does not command. The hunters enforce but do not execute without trial. And anyone, vampire, hunter, or human, who threatens this balance will be eliminated." "And if we refuse?" Isolde asked. Lucian smiled. It was not a kind expression. "You saw what happened to the Silver Cross. Do not make me demonstrate what happens to internal threats." The library fell silent. Then Cassius laughed. It was a genuine sound, almost admiring. "You magnificent bastard," he said. "You orchestrated all of this, the sleep, the betrayal, the near extinction. You let us think you were weak so we would reveal ourselves." "Not all of it," Lucian admitted. "The bioweapon was real. The threat was real. But yes, I used the crisis to consolidate power, to eliminate the ambitious and reward the loyal. That is what kings do." "And you wonder why we kneel reluctantly," Isolde muttered. "I do not wonder at all," Lucian said. "I do not want your love. I want your obedience. Love is unreliable. Obedience is concrete." He walked to the window, looked out at the London skyline. The sun was high now, bathing the city in afternoon light. "The sun is shining," he said quietly. "For the first time in 3 centuries, I can watch it without fear. That is worth more than your affection." He turned back. "You are dismissed. Next council session is in 1 month. Attendance is mandatory." The elders filed out, some angry, some thoughtful, all of them aware that the game had changed. When the last one left, Seraphina collapsed into a chair. "That went well," she said dryly. "They will test us," Lucian said. "Within a week. Probably Isolde. She does not like being told what to do." "Let her try." Lucian looked at her. She was still pale, still recovering from the fusion, but her eyes were clear. The corruption was gone. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Different. Stronger. Like I can feel your heartbeat from across the room." "You can. We are bonded now. What affects one affects the other." Seraphina stood, walked to him. They stood together in the sunlight. "I never thanked you," she said. "For what? For not killing me when you had the chance, for trusting me when you had no reason to, for making me a queen instead of a prisoner. You earned it. Still." She kissed him. It was brief, soft, a promise rather than a claim. When she pulled back, Lucian's eyes were glowing crimson-violet. "Careful," he warned. "We are bonded. Emotions are intense." "Good," Seraphina said. "I am tired of subtle." They stood in the sunlight together, king and queen, vampire and hunter. The 2 bloodlines that had been at war for 6 centuries now fused into something the world had never seen. Outside, London woke to a new day. Inside Blackwood Manor, the new order began. They buried Corvus at dawn, not in the Blackwood family crypt, not with ceremony or council attendance. Just Lucian and Seraphina, standing in the manor's private garden as the sun rose. The grave was beneath an oak tree that had stood for 200 years. Lucian had planted it the year he bought the estate. Corvus had climbed it as a young vampire, testing his newfound strength. Now it would shelter his rest. "You should say something," Seraphina said quietly. Lucian looked at the simple stone marker. No dates, no titles, just a name. Corvus Blackwood brother, redeemed. "I failed you," Lucian said to the grave. "I was arrogant, took what was yours, called it love when it was theft. You died saving the world I nearly destroyed through neglect." He knelt, placed a hand on the fresh earth. "You ask forgiveness. I give it. And I ask the same of you." The wind moved through the oak leaves, almost like an answer. Seraphina touched his shoulder. "He heard you." "How do you know?" "Hunter sense. The dead always hear apologies. It is the living who are deaf. They stood together as the sun climbed higher. Lucian could feel it on his skin. Warm, no longer painful. Corvus's final gift. The sacrifice that made the fusion possible. "Thank you, brother," Lucian whispered. And for the first time in a century and a half, he felt the weight of that particular guilt lift. They walked back to the manor in comfortable silence. The garden path was lined with flowers that bloomed despite the season, some effect of the fusion, perhaps. Life responding to the presence of something new. "What will you do with Isabel?" Serafina asked. Lucian had been wondering the same thing. The reanimated shell had collapsed when Augustine's control severed. It lay in the Aurelius Tower morgue, awaiting his decision. "I will give her a proper burial," Lucian said. "Next to Corvus. They can rest together, as they should have from the beginning. That is kind. It is overdue." 3,000 miles away, in a stone chamber beneath Vatican City, Father Augustine knelt before an altar. The room was ancient, older than Christianity, older than Rome. The walls were carved with symbols that predated language. A single candle burned on the altar. In the darkness behind the flame, something moved. "Report," a voice said. It sounded like wind through empty tombs. "The London operation failed," Augustine said. His voice was steady despite the cold sweat on his brow. "The Vampire King survived. The bioweapon was neutralized. Corvus Blackwood is dead. Unfortunate, but not unexpected." "The fusion worked," Augustine continued. "Ashford bonded with the Vane girl. They created a hybrid, a daywalker, the first in recorded history." Silence. Then, "Interesting. That was always a possibility. Did you recover samples?" Augustine reached into his cassock, withdrew a small vial. Inside, a single drop of blood glowed faintly violet. "From the rooftop. Before the fusion completed. It is not pure hybrid essence, but it carries both bloodlines." "Bring it." Augustine stood, walked to the altar, placed the vial on the stone. A hand emerged from the darkness, pale, too long, fingers that bent in ways human fingers should not. It took the vial. "Phase 1 is complete," the voice said. "We have proven that vampire-hunter fusion is possible, that the Daywalker can be created. Now we move to Phase 2, which is replication. If one hybrid can be made, an army can be engineered. Imagine it, Augustine. Soldiers who carry vampire strength and hunter immunity, who walk in daylight and wield vain magic, who are loyal only to us." "Project Genesis," Augustine breathed. "Yes. Begin recruitment. We need test subjects. Vampires who are desperate. Hunters who are angry. Bring them here. We will forge them into weapons. And Ashford? Let him play king. Let him believe he has won. We will return when the army is ready. And when we do, his new order will burn." The hand retreated into shadow. Augustine bowed. "Your will be done." He left the chamber. The candle flickered. In the darkness, the presence that was not human and not vampire, but something older, laughed. A sound like continents grinding together. Blackwood Manor had never been so alive. Ironic, considering most of its inhabitants were technically dead. Lucian stood in the library, reviewing reports. The Hunter Division was operational. 27 former Vane family associates had joined Serafina. They patrolled London, keeping rogue vampires in check and investigating Silver Cross remnants. The council was stable, mostly. Isolde had tested him twice. Both times she had learned that challenges to the throne were answered swiftly and publicly. She did not challenge a third time. The door opened. Serafina entered. She wore tactical gear. Her hair was pulled back. She looked like she had just returned from patrol. "The south side nest is contained," she reported. 6 rogue vampires, all young, all starving. We relocated them to the feeding program. Casualties? 2 humans injured, non-fatal. Memory modification complete. Lucian nodded. The feeding program was Serafina's innovation. Legal blood donation from willing humans who were compensated and protected. It reduced hunting incidents by 70%. It also made vampires dependent on the throne's resources, control through necessity. Lucian approved. "You look tired," he observed. "I am fine." "You are lying." Serafina smiled, sat on the edge of his desk. "I am pregnant." Lucian froze. "What?" "Pregnant, with child, carrying your offspring. Should I use smaller words?" That is impossible. Vampire-human hybrids cannot—" "We are not vampire-human," Serafina said. "We are vampire-vein fusion, entirely new biology. Apparently, it includes functional reproduction." Lucian stared at her, then smiled. It was rare, genuine. The smile of a man who had lived 300 years and thought he had seen everything. "A child," he said. "A tribrid," Serafina corrected. "Vampire, hunter, and whatever we became when we fused. I have no idea what that means for development or abilities or—" Lucian kissed her. When he pulled back, they were both glowing. Crimson-violet light danced beneath their skin. "We will figure it out," he said, "together. The council will panic. Let them. A royal heir gives me legitimacy they cannot challenge. Augustine will come for the baby." Serafina's expression darkened at the mention of the priest. Lucian's jaw tightened. "I have sent 12 hunters to find him," Lucian said. "Morgana's coven is tracking his movements through divination. The Vatican thinks it can hide him. They are wrong. When we find him, we end Project Genesis before it begins. No trial, no mercy. Some threats you cannot contain. You can only erase." Serafina nodded. She understood. The old laws of war between their kinds. Some enemies earned death, not imprisonment. "The hunters report weekly," Lucian continued. "Augustine has gone to ground in Eastern Europe, but he will surface. Arrogance always surfaces. And when he does—" He left the promise unfinished. Some things did not need words. They stood together, king and queen, about to become parents to something the world had never seen. Below them, London glittered. 8 million humans going about their lives, unaware that the monsters they feared had changed, that the war was over, that a new age had begun. Outside, the sun was setting. But for the first time in centuries, Lucian did not fear the darkness. He and Serafina walked to the balcony, looked out over London. "Do you ever regret it?" Serafina asked. "The fusion, the bond, giving up what you were to become something unknown?" Lucian considered. "No," he said finally. "I was a king who hid from the sun. Now I am a king who walks in light. That is not a loss. That is evolution. And when Augustine returns with his army, then we will show him what evolution looks like when it is cornered." He pulled her close. For a moment, Lucian thought he saw movement at the edge of the estate grounds, a figure with binoculars in the tree line. He blinked. Gone. Probably nothing, or probably another test from the council. He made a mental note to increase perimeter patrols. In the shadows at the edge of the estate, a figure watched through binoculars. She wore tactical gear, carried recording equipment. She had been watching for 3 months. She pulled out a satellite phone, dialed a number that routed through 6 countries before connecting. "This is Observer 7, she said. "Subjects confirmed pregnant. Timeline accelerated. Requesting extraction of sample for Project Genesis." A pause. Then, "Approved. Proceed with caution. The daywalkers are more dangerous than anticipated." The observer lowered her binoculars. On the balcony, Lucian and Serafina stood together, unaware. The observer smiled, uploaded her surveillance footage, titled the file, "Tribrid, Phase 2 Initiation," and disappeared.